invite Roxann and Nick set up after the program. You're about to watch 7 short to medium length films. There is fiction, documentary, animation, musical. There's a lot of amazing, there's 7 amazing films that you're about to watch, and the last 2 are directed by Roxann, and as soon as the whole program's over, then we'll invite Roxann and Nick set up for a discussion with you all. So thank you very much for coming, and enjoy the screening.
Can we start with Legends of the Storm? Why did you feel it was important to do a film on the Oka crisis, and then as well as through the eyes of a child?
Okay, well, Legend of the Storm happened in my community when I was 6.5 years old, so I experienced it firsthand. And my daughter, who's in the audience, she came home from school one day and she was asking me questions, and she said, you know, there was this big war that happened, but it was a long time ago, and they wouldn't let food in, they wouldn't let the people leave, and all these things, and I realized she was talking about the Oka crisis. And I said, no, that didn't happen like 100 years ago or 200 years ago. That happened when I was a little girl. It happened here. And she said, no way. And I convinced her that it was real. And I was telling her the truth. And then she said, well, what did you think? How did you feel? What did you do every day? What did you want to do? So I wrote the poetic allegory in about 6 hours because it just flowed. I just knew exactly I knew exactly what I wanted to put on paper, and at the time, I wasn't a filmmaker yet. I wasn't even a writer. I worked for social services. I was on maternity leave. And I think storytelling for Ungwehue Indigenous people is very natural because of our oral traditions. And I actually landed a job on Mohawk Girls because I wrote this poetic allegory and went and pitched it to Tracy Deer because I wanted her to make it. So this Legend of the Storm is my very, very first film ever. Stacey Huff, who plays the grandmother, is a warrior woman. She was on the front lines at Standing Rock. And so she came back to share her experiences. And Stacey Huff also lived through the 1990 Oka crisis. She played a really big role in that. She used to, they used to drop her out, the warriors would drop her off in the river, and she would swim to the treatment center where the people were, and she would have to bypass the army and everything else, and she would smuggle food and medicine in there and leave. And when I was casting, she came in and she was a walk-in, but she knew the emotions so intimately. She lived it, she relived it. The entire crew, the mother, Courtney Rice, she was a child. And for that car scene, what I told her was, you were those little girls in the back seat. And I said, I want you to say, and her friend, which is actually one of my good friends, Christine. They all helped me out because I had no money to make this film, but I said, you guys were those children in the back seat. Now I want you to look at the soldiers, and I want you to say everything that you wish you could have said to them back then. And that's what they gave me. And I really loved their performance in that specific scene. I prefer to be behind the camera, and it was really awkward when it came out because I was walking around in Toronto and my face was everywhere, and people actually recognized me from the documentary, and they were like, hey, that's the girl. And I don't know, I'm just very awkward when it comes to people acknowledging me and things like that, but I really wanted to tell this story. And it was very important to me to give other people, young women, not just Ungwehue women, something to relate to when they're diagnosed.
And who did you work with on this film?
Brittany LeBorgne, who's in the audience. She plays Zoe on Mohawk Girls, and she's up for a People's Choice Award with the Canadian Screen Institute.
Since we're talking about you, might as well come down.
I got diagnosed. Tracy Deer was the first one to know that something was up. and something was wrong, even before my family, because I was trying to see if I had insurance and whatever to go and get the mammograms and stuff at a private clinic, because the GPs just wouldn't give me a referral. They thought I was too young, and it was just ridiculous, and it's usually older women who are diagnosed. So I reached out to her, and then I told her, I said, you know, I'm having a really hard time with knowing that I'm gonna go completely bald. And I just wanna record something, you know, something that I could leave for my children if I don't survive. And Tracy, actually, I think it was Brittany, she texted me and she said, hey, Roxy, we think this is gonna be a feature. We want it to be a feature. And I said, what? Like, whoa, that's really big. But you know, we sat down, we talked about it, and I said, okay, let's do it. Even though I hate seeing myself on the screen, I did it. And when CBC picked it up, it was only about a year after we were already filming. What I wanted to do was expose the toxic waste that's on reserves, that's in Indigenous communities everywhere. And around almost every single Indigenous community, there's a power plant. There's something there that's making the people sick. There's dams, there's mining and all of that stuff. And when I was a child, or when my father was a child, there was people who would come to Ganawage, and because the people were unemployed and all of that back then, they were somewhat desperate for money, and they would pay them to bury transformers, and they would dump toxic waste there, and there was an industrial dump on the reserve, and it came from Montreal. And then I moved to Akwesasne, and I lived there for about 10 years, and that reserve was surrounded by like General Motors and all these big major power plants. And I remember reading a report when I lived there. I think I was maybe 17 or 18 years old, and it was David Suzuki who visited the community. And he said, the next generation, there's gonna be a cancer boom. And I'm not the only one who is sick. There's a lot of us. You know, the struggle is real, it's happening now. It's not something that's happened 100 years ago. They're taking our land, they're doing a lot of things to us. And I have friends, young women younger than me, who also have cancer. And one of my friends, he lost 2 children in 2 years and his granddaughter. So it's not something that could be ignored anymore. The effects of what happened then are coming out in the people now. And I've always, with the work that I do, I usually try to do something to help my people, because that's the way I was raised in the traditional system. And I think it's really unfortunate that our people suffer with these issues.
I just wanted to say that, I mean, you were talking about, we came to you and said, oh, we think it's a feature. It turned out not really to be a feature, but to be a doc series, yeah, a digital doc series on CBC, which is great. But basically, Roxann and Tracy approached me and asked if I wanted to be a part of this, because Roxann wanted to tell her story. But when you are the subject, you know, sometimes it's hard to take a step back and be able to really look at how the story should be told. How do you want to tell the story? So I came on board to help make sure that Roxann was telling the story the way that she wanted to. So it really was all her. No, but it really was her story, and I mean, I was just happy to be there to help her tell it the way she wanted it to be told, and it was a very challenging project at times, just because of where she was emotionally. You know, actually, Roxann and I go way back. I mean, we're both from the same community. We're both from Ganawage, so we actually were like in nursery school together. So, you know, to go through that so close to someone, and being there at these sort of intense moments where she's cutting her hair off, I think that scene was the hardest for me. Every time I see it, it just gets me. So to be there was, you know, to try and be there to support her, as well as making sure the story gets told, was challenging at times, but I'm just really happy that she asked me to be a part of it, and I was really happy to be there for her, and I'm just so proud of her, and I love you.
So I know that only part 1 was shown. If everyone wants to see the rest of it, if you haven't already seen it, where can they see it?
They can watch it, they can stream online, CBC Short Docs, or just Google Thunder Blanket CBC and it'll come up, and there's 2 bonus episodes, so yeah, it's out there.
And how many films do you have in total?
Okay, I have Legend of the Storm, I have Thunder Blanket, which is the series, I have the Resurgence. Alanis is our mentor, Alanis Obamswin, for that film, and I have Paradigm, and I have Precious Things that's coming out on CBC soon. So I have Resurgence, Precious Things, Paradigm that's coming out this year.
You are multi-talented. I am so glad that I had this time to like learn about your films and spend time with you. You're amazing. This girl rocks. Can we give it up for her again?
Thanks. Feeding the ego. That's really dangerous. No. And Brittany and I were in 3 Billy Goats Gruff play together in nursery. Actually, we were. We have pictures of us dancing together. But for Brittany to come on, I mean, I wanted to tell this story, but there were times where I was just emotional, and I knew that it wasn't possible for me to tell it without somebody else there supporting me. And I really trusted Brittany. We, you know, grew together in the office at Mohawk Princess Pictures, Tracy Deer's office, and it was mostly her and I who were there all the time. And I'm just really happy that she came on, and she's really a pleasure to work with. This is my fire family from Ganawage, and we have the Standing Rock Solidarity Camp. And most definitely, I mean, if the people invite me there, I think having consent is very important for them to request it from me. I wouldn't go there and try to, I guess, impose on them in any way. It would be something that they would have to request. So I'm definitely open to doing anything like that. Come up with really great ideas, find people who are working in the industry, offer your time, even if it's a couple hours here and there, so they get to know you, and you have to prove yourself. You have to work really hard to get someone to sign on as your mentor, to get somebody to say that, to help you get your funding, because someone has to bring you in usually. Someone brings you in by saying, I'm gonna work with them on the film to make sure that it's done. This is my body of work. I'm established and I know what I'm doing, and I'm gonna help them come in. So this is what Tracy Deer did for me. I think that it's very important to listen to the people around you, the professionals around you, and collaborate. Know what you want, but collaborate with everyone, because it's really a team effort. When you look at Thunder Blanket, people see me because it says that I wrote, directed, or co-directed, produced it, and I'm starring in it, but there's actually a huge team of people behind me who are putting the music in, who are editing, who are coming, you know, to direct, or the camera operator, the director of photography, the boom operator. It's a team effort. So, I mean, my team, you know, I really love these people, and they've come with me to, they've moved forward with me on all my other films, so. It's very difficult because I really wanted this to be the theme of the documentary, where here I am, I'm experiencing it, I'm living it, I'm going to other communities and I'm visiting these people, and we're just, I know where the waste is buried. I know where everything I did my research. The thing is that the corporations are protected. That's the bottom line. And CBC can't air anything, and nobody can do that. We need class action lawsuits against the companies so that we can go in there and we can film them. That's what needs to happen. But it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, and a lot of these people who have, who have the ability to go and do it, or they're victims, or they've lost family members, are so emotionally, unwell. And I think what's happening in the environment right now, I mean, a lot of Native communities have been affected by this for a long time, but it's just getting so big that the environment, there's nothing more important than that right now. And a lot of us are focusing our energy and our attention on that through, the solidarity fires, through Standing Rock, through filmmaking, through all these different mediums. And I think it's important to continue doing that, but to work together and to be aware and to, strengthen our allies, to really look for peaceful solutions, because our people, we're looked at because of 90 and different things as being very violent, but we are very peaceful people. And Mother Earth is not strong enough to sustain another war or whatever it may be, and all these, all the toxic spills and all of that. So I think it's really important to continue pushing forward and working together. I would like to say that you're never too young for cancer to, give yourself exams, to
Roxann told me when we were, figuring out and planning how are we gonna tell her story, that was one of the things that stuck in my head, how she went to the doctor and said, I think there's something wrong. Can you please help me do something? And the doctor just said, oh, don't worry about it. You're too young for cancer. And so for me, that was like a huge, your health is in your own hands. And she said she regrets not going and getting a second or third or fourth opinion, because maybe one of those opinions, maybe one of those doctors would have taken her seriously, and maybe she wouldn't have had to go through what she went through. So if you are ever in doubt, go to another doctor, a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, whatever it takes, because you know your body, and if you think there's something wrong, you should trust that.
I had absolutely no makeup on, and I was completely bald and just very deathly looking, and I didn't put on a show for this documentary. It's very raw, and I even ranted about my sister, and I apologize. I was kind of nasty at times, but I mean, I got so comfortable with the crew that well, we're all friends.
Okay.
But when it came time to seeing the cuts, I was like, oh, it's hard. I'm judging myself hard, but CBC had the final say in what was put out. And so I guess we're coming towards the end of the evening, and I just wanted to share that I was in remission until Thursday. I was notified that it's back, the cancer. So, yeah.
I think you're a warrior, and I think you're just going to get through it again. You have immense talent, and the Creator didn't put you on this earth for you not to do another 30 movies. So you're not going anywhere, and I know that you're going to have tons of support, even more than you had the first time. So,
Thanks.